Pirates, ninjas, Vikings. You need something to build stuff on, so today we're building a folding sawhorse. I'm going to put all the building plans at the end of the video, so you can pause and take notes from there. So first up is cutting all the plywood pieces. These are the same kind of plywood pieces you would use if you were building a Broadway flat, what we would call corner blocks and keystones. Starting at the corner of an 8-inch wide piece of plywood, draw a 45-degree angle. That is one leg of your triangle. Use whatever you have to cut the plywood. But first, I want to talk to you about grain direction in plywood. It's important that the grain be going across the length of our pieces. It's very rigid that way, as opposed to if it was going across the width of the pieces, in which case it's got a lot of bend in the plywood. And we want that rigidity in our plywood to keep the sawhorses from flexing. So our keystones, they're 11 inches long. And I'm just trimming up the end of a 1x4 so that there's a square edge on the bottom before cutting it to length. And I'm cutting off the corners of the legs. This is just to keep the legs from splintering as they're drug across the floor. And you will drag these across the floor. Now, from the top of the leg, mark down 12.5 inches. And on the side of the mark that's toward the bottom of the leg, you will place your middle 1x4. Now, this whole thing is getting held together with glue. Well, glue with the plywood. And in order to keep the plywood attached to the 1x4, we've got some options. First up is screws. These are number 8 by 3/4 inch screws. Now, to put this keystone in place, I'm keeping it about 1 inch away from the edge, and it's centered on the middle piece, so I can see where the middle piece meets my leg. Make sure it's square and insert the screws. And then we're going to do the same for the other side. Another way of attaching the plywood is with narrow crown staples. These are 3/4 inch long staples. Again, glue, square it up, and staple. And I like to keep my staple pattern in an X. It's something I learned from building Broadway flats. Simply on each board, there's going to be 5 staples, and they're spaced in such a way that they make an X. Measuring across the width of my sawhorse, it should be 30 inches. But my 1x4s aren't exactly 3.5 inches wide. I mean, this whole thing is 1/8 of an inch short, so each 1x4 was a 1/16 inch less than 3.5 inches. So we're going to accommodate that. Corner blocks get glued up and go in. Again, attach one side of the corner block to a 1x4. And then square up the boards, making sure everything is flush, and staple away. Now that 1/8 inch difference we had down below is just going to transfer up here to the top, and it's going to be short by 1/8 of an inch. So line up the top. On the first frame that was built, the right side was not flush. So on this one, we're going to make the left side not flush by 1/8 of an inch. And I'm only doing this because this frame was also 1/8 of an inch short. It'll make sense when they all get screwed together. We're basically building mirror images. Now the top piece and the leg piece weren't touching each other. Not a problem. Attach one piece to the corner block. Push everything together. Make sure it's flush. Staple away. Or screws. Staples were fun. I'm using door hinges to attach the two frames together. And I also have a self-centering drill bit. You put it in the holes of the hinge, the drill bit extends into the wood in the center of the hole. For the folding piece, I have an assortment of 2.5 inch and 3 inch hinges. Most anything will work here. I like the fact that these are non-removable pin hinges. Just with all the movement going around, I don't want these pins falling out. And I say that with the door hinges up above, which tend not to fall out. I haven't had one fall out yet. But with these smaller hinges, I could imagine some issues. So this is the 2.5 inch hinge. I'm putting it in from the edge about 2.5 inches. And I'm going to attach one side of the hinge to my 1x6. And then I'm going to go to the other side of the board and I'm going to attach another hinge onto the same board. And once those halves of the hinges are installed, I'll press the boards together and insert the screws. Then on the edge of the folding piece, install more hinges. These I have folded, so the barrel of the hinge is sitting on the corner of the 1x6. And do that on both sides. Lay out the two frames. And the folding piece goes here, centered on that 1x4. And then take my advice, only put one screw per hinge flap. Don't do what I did here and put all 6 in. You'll see why later. Flip the whole thing over, and you're going to estimate where the bottom of the 1x6 meets the top of the 1x4. There's going to be some trial and error here, but it's a best guess, and then we'll see how it turns out. So I only put one screw per hinge here because I want to make sure it works before I commit to everything. So I fold up the Sawhorse, and something's off. The legs aren't together, and the folding piece is tilted. I'm not sure if you can tell here. One side is flush on the 1x4, but the other side is leaning. So we need to fix that. In this case, the 1x6 that's leaning is slightly higher than the other side. So I'm going to raise the other side. That was the side I put all 6 screws in. So once I take out all the 6 screws, it gets a slight adjustment. And here's where having clean screw holes would be nice. So I only put in 1 screw per hinge and fold it up, and it works much better. So then it's time to put in the rest of the screws. On the corner blocks, those 45-degree angles were kind of sharp, so I'm just hitting them with the sander. And look at that! You got yourself a horse! We've got something to build upon. We're missing something. We need another horse. Ah, that's better. To fold up the horse, just lift up in the center of the folding 1x6s. There's a way of folding up the horse one-handed. I just grab the horse, lift up quickly, and then push down quickly. And it folds right up. Let me show you in slow motion. Lift up and push down with confidence. So this sawhorse is 33.5 inches tall. I wanted it slightly shorter than my table saw. You can build 2 horses out of 5 8-foot 1x4s and 1 8-foot 1x6 using this cutting layout, or you could use an 8-foot 1x6 and 4 10-foot 1x4s if you happen to have a lot of 10-foot 1x4s laying around the shop. And the plywood pieces can all come out of a 2-foot by 4-foot piece of 1/4-inch plywood. The corner blocks have 45-degree angles, and the keystones are 11 inches long. So there you go. Grab your horses and go build something.